And we're live.
And we are live. Okay, I'm taking it off from here. We just saw Impact Wrestling and Kenny Omega's debut, showing up to Impact for the first time. Big deal. A lot of people looking to tune in. This is going to be easily Impact's biggest number of the year on Access, if not ever on Access. This show also saw an appearance from Tony Khan, who appeared in a kind of an old school type commercial ad with AEW letters in the background alongside Tony Schiavone. Tony Khan mentioned that he could have shut this whole thing down. He could have sued Kenny Omega for breach of contract, but instead he has opted to fund Impact Wrestling by appearing on a commercial and talking about all the great things Impact has or AEW has for tomorrow, Wednesday night. He made a comment to Tony Schiavone. Hey, Tony, you've been on Impact before. And Tony made a pretty funny comment where he said, yeah, I've been on Impact once, and then I quit the business for 18 years. And so that was part of the commercial. So they had a pretty fun interaction there. And then we got to the Kenny Omega segment that everybody was waiting for. What I thought that Impact did was kind of smart was they did not open the show hot. They didn't open the show with this Kenny Omega stuff that was on everybody's mind. They did give you a video package, but then when the show started, Josh Matthews said, sometime during tonight, they didn't even say it was part of the main event. They said, sometime during the night, I will be called away to interview Kenny Omega on his private tour bus. So they essentially designed the show for you to be waiting for any moment during the show where Kenny Omega interview could happen. So it didn't happen until the end, of course, where Josh Matthews sat down with Kenny Omega. I'll just give you the rundown of the notes that happened. They started off by taking off the Jon Moxley nameplate from the AEW Championship. They said that normally.
Well, real quick. Well, let's talk about that Tony Khan segment, and then let's go to the. Then we can go to that.
Matt, let's start with you. What did you think about the Tony Khan? I know you were fired up before we got on air here. What did you think about the Tony Khan segment opposite Tony Schiavone?
Rotten as rotten gets, and I hate saying that. I'm an AEW homer. I generally overrate them. I admit that. Because I want them to do awesome, and I'm most entertained by their show. Out of all the shows on wrestling, as a fan myself, I'm always most entertained by AEW. So I don't like saying that, but it's with that. I'm sorry. He was laughing through the promo. He wasn't serious, and if he was, he needs some acting classes. He was literally talking. I want you to put Vince McMahon in that spot. How would that have been played? You would have really believed him when he said, I could buy this damn show if I want to. Yes, we know Tony Khan could really buy the show if he wants to. But the way he said it, I didn't believe it. And the way he was talking about being mad at Kenny, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel it at all. And it was just like it was thrown together, right, with a craptastic backdrop, which, fine, you can call it old school. That's cool. I'll accept that. That's fine. But, like, the promo itself, it just felt like it was half-assed, thrown together, underdressed, by the way, and whatnot. I didn't. This is supposed to be AEW, a much bigger time show than Impact. They should have been dressed the part, and I thought they should have acted the part.
Did you ever see those Vince McMahon promos in '92 in Memphis when they were kind of doing the feud with Jerry Lawler? And this came across as kind of like a cheap version of that, like Tony Khan trying to play heel, whereas Vince
What about when Vince went to TBS?
Oh, you mean like in '84?
What was that, Black Friday? That's like the, yeah.
Do you guys remember that? I don't know. He was supposed to be a babyface announcer at night, but I thought he was a dick then too.
Right.
I just think there's something about how you dress and the aura you give off. Tony Khan felt like he was goofing around, not being serious. I don't know.
And I think that's one of the things that made that angle last week when Omega took off. Was it seemed serious, like, oh, he's going to Impact. He screwed AEW. Why is he taking the belt to, Impact? And then Tony Khan is just not, it was like, I could have filed an injunction. It's not a big deal. I'm buying an ad. He had to beat it over your head that he's buying an ad. I just thought this was kind of a missed opportunity.
It was a missed opportunity. It was nonchalant. Too nonchalant for me.
Yeah, it was very weirdly placed in the show, too. I'm kind of glad that officially it was technically an ad, so it really wasn't part of the body of the show or storyline. But he did say, he did incorporate storyline elements by saying that he could have sued and whatnot. And I'm just of the mindset that the less Tony Khan, the better. Like, it's not that I'm not a fan of Tony Khan. Yes. I think the guy is a good guy, and I think he gets it in terms of wrestling. One of the things I think Tony Khan gets is that the booker should not be a central facing figure on television. And I don't care what anybody says. Seeing a segment like this just makes me think it's just only a matter of time before this becomes a regular thing. And I do think that would be a bad thing for AEW and all parties involved if Tony Khan is at all a type of authoritarian character on wrestling television.
It's just overdone to hell.
No offense to him, he couldn't be in an authoritarian position in a kindergarten class. I'm being dead serious. Like even when his champion, his brand new crown champion, Kenny Omega, was leaving AEW Dynamite that night. Even then, he was like, "Hey, where you going? Like, go back and watch it." I rewound it just to watch it again. And it wasn't. It's like when Debo steals the dude's bike on Friday, when he and they're like, "Hey, maybe it's kind of like both our bikes." Like that's totally like how Tony Khan got Debo'd by his world champion leaving that night, which I loved for Kenny, by the way. Made him look like a bigger heel, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
But because he totally bitch slapped him, it was good. I don't know.
Anytime we could get a Debo reference.
Yeah. Debo and the bikes. And he threw in the bikes.
It'd be like both of our bikes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see people's reaction to Tony Khan on camera because this really was the beginning. If Tony Khan becomes an on-camera figure, this is the beginning of it. This was the first time we saw Tony show a personality on camera and really kind of play a character. And I didn't like it. I didn't feel good about it. I mean, I wasn't as strongly as Matt was, but I just don't like the feeling of Tony Khan.
And so Raj, when I'm doing this, when I'm saying these things, like I said, I'm a total homer for this company. I admit it to all the fans that watch our show, right? I do. And I don't like saying any of this. I really don't. But I gotta, tell the truth. Like that was very nonchalant and it was very underdressed. Well, Matt, don't you understand? He's a different kind of billionaire. I get it, but you're on your lesser competitor show. You're supposed to be the big dog, dress the part, look the part. That's all.
And he dresses the part when he's at the AEW scrums and the media conferences. So why not do the same when you're trying to get over the small impact audience, whatever doesn't already watch AEW, to come on over. Justin Lopez said they made it look like Tony is planting seeds to be an on-screen character.
Right.
We all agree that I hope not, because it's been overdone. AEW seems like they don't, try to do the things that are overdone.
That's true. They try to be different. I agree with that. I hope, but here's the thing: they kind of have to do something. Tony has to be involved somehow because it's his company that just got dicked over, right? So he's got to say something. I just would be very careful, and I would do it with backstage segments. I would not have him out in the ring. I wouldn't put a lot of pressure on him to perform. Again, he's only had this company for how long? A year and change. Like it's a lot of pressure to put on him.
And Matt, you mentioned how that Tony Khan made a brief cameo last week backstage, pretty much not doing anything. Like Kenny Omega just walked right by him. I'm actually fine. If that's how they use Tony Khan, I'm fine with that. Just so they can get a plan to see that it's real, That's the owner of the company. He's just standing there off to the side. That's how I think they should use Tony Khan.
Can I tell you what he was doing? Go back and watch it. He was behind the camera.
Yeah.
What was he doing behind the camera? What was he shooting? Was he filming? What was he doing? Bird watching.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I'm very detail oriented, and I want them to do so good. So good, I want this company to do.
You mean last week? Well, Tony was in Gorilla, right? Because he's producing the show. He's timing the show.
Go back and watch it. There was a camera on a tripod. Go back.
I can't wait to go back and look at that. Yeah,
that's when he came out from behind. You have to watch it really quickly, though. It happens like half a second.
Oh, gotcha.
Well, we go into the the Kenny Omega segment, which main evented this show. They are in his private tour bus alongside Don Callis. They take off the ceremonial John Moxley nameplate, and Don Callis is changing it with Kenny Omega. Don Callis really kind of takes the lead on this segment. For the first maybe 10 minutes of the segment, it's really just a long Don Callis promo, which I had no problem with it. I thought he did a good job.
He did.
He's a great talker, as we all know. He brought up that picture of the Golden Sheik. He said that him and the Golden Sheik have a very special bond because the Golden Sheik looked after him. He trained him. And one day he met the Golden Sheik's 10-year-old nephew, curly-haired kid named Kenny Omega. And now he looks after Kenny Omega the way Golden Sheik looked after Don. He said Kenny Omega and Don Callis coming together and going to Impact and hatching this plan for Kenny to win this title was all part of the plan. He said he didn't come back just to commentate and be a color commentator. He said 3 years ago, Don Callis was the one who booked Jericho and Omega in the Tokyo Dome. Very memorable match. And this led to the birth of AEW. Admittedly, Tony Khan saw this match and decided he wanted to start AEW, according to Don. He said a lot of people take credit for what Kenny Omega and Don accomplished, but it was really them two. It was all part of their conspiracy to make Kenny Omega the champion. He said Kenny Omega is a Hall of Famer in his mid-30s, which is a true story. He also said that some people make matches and some people make memories. We make history.
Like
now, Josh Matthews came in and he asked the question, does this tarnish Kenny Omega's legacy? And they took extreme exception to this. This is when Kenny Omega starts getting more active in the interview. He said, what if somebody put their hands on your father, Josh? Somebody put their hands on a father figure. Would you just stand there? Would you hit him back? Kenny says he's had 17 of the top 20 matches in AEW, which might be true. He might be underselling it. So 17, 10, 20 matches in AEW. He even says he's had some of the top matches in Japan and Zimbabwe, which, listen, I've seen some wrestling documentaries on Zimbabwe wrestling. I cannot confirm that, but that might be true too. He said, I've had a top match there. He says, I feel like the old me again. He said, remember when he was talked about why Impact, that I used to collect comic books, and he had to quit collecting comic books because he spent so much money that he could never get the rarest comic book. He talked about the most valuable comic book is Action Comics #1. That's a Superman comic. And he compared that to the AEW Championship. Then he compared the AAA Championship to the X-Men #1, which is a good comic as well. And he compared the Impact Championship to Spider-Man #1. Also another good comic, but not on the realm of the Superman #1. So they end this segment by teasing another big announcement at AEW tomorrow night. He referenced Alexa Express, that he's writing in style, and then he finally says, I'm going to do the thing. And this is the thing that I believe he's never done on AEW television, where he says goodbye and good night, bang. He does that, they leave. And that is your segment inside the bus. What did you think about this, Matt?
Dork-ass Twinkle Fingers instead went good night boing on one of their pay-per-views. That's the last time he's tried to do it.
Oh, I see.
And in defense, that was a smart thing for him to do at that time. There was a shooting, I want to swear, that same day, like a really bad, very popular one. It was one at the video game thing in Jacksonville. That's what the event was for. Remember? Right. It was to raise money for the shooting at the.
Yes. Yeah.
That was the last time he did he didn't say bang. He specifically said boing, which was like,
Fight for the Fallen. That was Fight for the Fallen because they were raising money for shooting people. So yeah, that did make sense to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And so, anyways, long story short, I thought this was one of his best promos to date, easily one of his best. But the whole setup of it was awesome. I love Don Callis taking the lead and talking so much. He was pouring gasoline on his guy Kenny. The whole promo, he was pouring more. It made Kenny feel like a bigger star, and others out there I've heard say, "Oh, nobody knows who the Golden Sheik is." Oh, blah 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 blah. I don't give a crap if nobody knows who he is. Know what they know now? That he's an important person to both of these people. Therefore, it makes sense that they're connected together at the hip. There's a long history and a long story there. I like that they tie that loose end up of who Don is in relation to Kenny. I like that part. I like Kenny's promo. The rest of everything he said was spot on. The comic book stuff, you know, I collect comics myself. I collect baseball cards. You've never heard me bring up my 85 Mark McGwire rookie card or my 89 Griffey Jr. Upper Deck or how I get them graded, and I have over a $400,000 baseball card collection. A Willie Mays 55. You never heard me talk about that. You want to know why? Because I look like I could kick somebody's ass. That's what I talked about when it was time to get on the microphone. To make you invest emotionally to come wanting to see me kick somebody's ass or run my bleep liquor enough to make you pay money to see me get my ass kicked by somebody from talking too much smack. Yeah, we're not talking about comic books. I'm not talking about video games. But then again, I'm 44. Maybe I'm out of touch with it, even though I do collect comic books and baseball cards. So that was the only part of the promo that I can possibly critique at all. But it did lead to what I wanted to hear. He wants to collect title belts. I like that. I would never compare the Impact title belt to Spider-Man #1. Shame on you, Kenny Omega. That makes me doubt you now collect comic books to even. Oh my God, how disrespectful. But anyways, nonetheless, it was good. I thought this was worth actually. I was okay watching the whole show to get to this. If there was a big bang at the end, theoretically, by the way, not really. And there was. I thought he did a good job with this.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the promo itself was great. In a lot, as far as his delivery and everything, I thought he should have worn a suit, dressed up like he's dressing up on Impact, and he's back to, dressing like he's going to the gym. And he's the champion now. Look the part. And it's not like he hasn't been doing that. Since he's been doing this heelish turn, he has been
rocking the suit. It looks great on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes him look like a bigger star. I didn't like that. Nothing really came out of this promo. He's like, I might be coming after we might add an Impact belt to it. Like it was just kind of nothing. And it was more a tease and ended up being just a tease for tomorrow night. So we got something bigger planned on Impact. I mean, on Dynamite.
I went on YouTube and check out a couple other just random podcast people that watch it live, just to see like what most of the fans out there were saying. And they're like, oh, this is going to be great. They're doing a great job of selling Impact. This is genius of AEW. P.S. They already have those fans. I don't want to hear, I wrestle for the company, okay, that there's Impact diehards that only watch Impact. Bullshit. They most certainly watch AEW. And I would be willing to say 89%, if not 95% of them, watch Dynamite. I promise it.
Yeah. And
so they did not get a new audience out of this. I don't want to hear that excuse.
And they might have, you mean AEW getting a new audience? I don't see
because that's what I saw some of the other like people talking about on their own little shows that they cover it live. You know what I mean? I don't know why people would watch that. Why would you watch somebody else's reaction to watch wrestling instead of watching the wrestling itself? But I'll digress. So that's what I was seeing. And the guy was like going bananas, like, oh, this is great. Good on AEW for coming into Impact and totally jabroning them and just doing nothing but advertise their show for tomorrow. They did a great job marketing their brand.
Yeah.
To who? They already got these people that are going to watch the show tomorrow. They had to come on Impact to do that. So, again, I still want to know what was the reasoning. Maybe I missed it. Why did he have to be there on Impact? I'm still confused by this.
Yeah. No, I mean, we were talking about this the other night. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, we saw the one night that NXT was on a Tuesday, and it took half of Impact's audience. So already, and they're supposed to be the alternative to WWE and NXT. And the night that they're head-to-head, way more, obviously more people are going to watch NXT, but half of the Impact's audience decided not to watch Impact that night. Mm-hmm. And they have a very small audience. So that's a huge chunk.
I'll be very frank. I'm surprised it was only half.
Yeah. I
really am.
I would have wanted to see something out of this segment that was more definitive in terms of integrating AEW and Impact.
Me too.
The one thing that did happen was Rich Swan, who's the Impact champion, kind of got denied from going outside because Kenny Omega was taking out the parking lot. So that might be the way that they're going. Is that Rich Swan was told that he cannot enter because the champion has it blocked off. Rich Swan thought they were talking about the TNA champion Moose, but the security guard said, no, Kenny Omega. So they might be doing something with Rich Swan and Kenny, but that was more kind of like an underhanded, like very subtly between the two, instead of just like a go-home segment where the two get in a brawl or something.
I thought it jumped them. It jumped their title belt. Go ahead, Raj. Sorry.
Oh,
there we go.
That's exactly. Yeah, Terrence Whitted saying Rich Swan getting jabroned, though.
Yeah, and before we get into the I'm going to run down the show real quick, but before we get into that, Matt, we'll start with you. Did this episode of Impact Wrestling give you a reason to tune in next week? Are you going to be tuning in next week based on anything you saw tonight?
No, me and my wife popped, my son popped. They got to see their husband and dad on TV again tonight. One of their segments.
They did.
2008. And the I went out into the arena to watch Gail Kim versus Kong live that night. Behind the bleachers because I knew their girls were going to kill it. And I was happy to see them show that match. But that was not their current roster. You have the most people that are watching your show right now, Impact. Newsflash. Book your own talent that you're trying to get over. Here's your chance to try to get them to a bigger audience.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Raj?
Don't show who you don't have anymore.
And you're showing the lively crowds, which obviously they can't have right now. But even before COVID,
our crowds were awesome.
Yeah, they were on fire back in the day. Real quick, there was a part in Omega's promo where he held Mox's nameplate and handed it to Josh Matthews and said, "Hey Matthews, Ambrose, right? Tough enough one, you can have it." And Mikasa saying, "I popped the collector."
Pop. Me too.
That was funny.
That might be the type of inside reference you want to make in wrestling. Because I agree with Matt. Listen, I like comic books too, but whenever I hear wrestlers reference comic books that deep, and when they talk about their storyline, it's like, listen, I get that, but what is that doing as a wrestler to advance a storyline conflict between you and somebody else?
Right. And this is so one thing is that tonight's Impact was actually taped at the end of November. So they taped. So all the stuff with Omega was sliced in. They taped that over the weekend in Canada. And they sliced it in with this regular show. So the wrestlers during the show had no idea, what would be happening because this was all taped before the Omega appearance.
Oh. Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Would you not throw together a show if you hear Kenny Omega's coming to your show from a rival company, a much bigger company? Could they not have done that?
I don't know, on such short notice to get the talent out there. I mean,
Machine Guns, the North, the good. I would have done so much more with this show if I knew he was coming in. I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I think it might have been thrown together is that Final Resolution is this Saturday. So in that sense, it's pretty good timing that this show is going to get this big audience. They have a pay-per-view to promote that's this Saturday on Impact Plus. So maybe that was part of it, that they just had to, do what they did because they're going to have a pay-per-view this Saturday.
And we did hear, we reported this at Wrestling Inc., I believe last week or over the weekend, that there's, at least initially, there's not supposed to be much between Impact and AEW. But Gallows and Anderson, it looks like they might be coming in for a match or two on Dynamite. So that'll be cool.
No Gallows and Anderson on the show.
What'd you say?
I don't think Gallows and Anderson were on the show.
They weren't.
No, they were not.
They weren't. But
again, this was taped ahead, in late November.
It was, but this is where I'm sorry. I throw that thing in the can. I throw it in the garbage.
Yeah.
And say half the show we're showing 2008 clips. Let's get listen. We weren't planning on this happening. It's happening. Code Red. Get your all asses to the sound stage here in Nashville, Tennessee, wherever they're at, to Canada. I don't even know. And we're putting together matches. There's no fans there, so why couldn't they? And you showcase your top talents. And by the way, who I really want to see crossover, if they could, to AEW is Motor City Machine Guns versus the Young Bucks. So bad.
They did show highlights of that match from
so
TNA
good.
Way back in the day, where
their
the
dark
Machine Guns
match
beat.
that they had, their tryout match though that they had is the best tag team. I'm not bullshitting. The best tag team match I have ever seen live. I'm not joking.
Yeah,
it was so good. They never were able to top it.
Yeah, Sacred Monkey Bone with $2 super chat saying Raj sounds more like Vince Daly. Dress the part, pal. Well, goddamn, pal, that's what he's been wearing the last few weeks. He's been wearing the suit.
I said the same thing. Why don't you say that to me, Monkey Bone? I said the same thing.
It was a weird outfit too, because like Tony Khan was wearing like a muscle shirt, but he doesn't have muscle, so it was more obvious. It's a really weird outfit.
Yeah.
But it's also, is there anything more frustrating than when a billionaire tries to be like the rest of us, where it's just like, come on, just be a billionaire.
I refuse to buy it. My guard goes up. My wall goes up. Yes. Yes.
Now let's run down Impact. Oh, we've got another super chat.
Another super chat.
Yeah.
Johnny Heck saying, I watched a little bit of it. Impact's ring sounds weird to me. I think maybe you're just used to the other shows having crowds, even though they're small, and at least the crowd noise, like the Thunderdome, where it sounds like a crowd, and just having it being dead silent. It's like back to the Performance Center days if you haven't been watching Impact.
Yeah, let's just go over like a rundown of the show and what was on it. It starts off with the video package. You would have thought it was on AEW TV. They just basically showed highlights of last week's match to run this down, and then they opened the show with the truck, the private tour bus, and said sometime during this hour we're going to talk to Kenny Omega. We had Josh Alexander take on Chris Saban. Chris Saban won. It was kind of a back and forth. Josh Alexander was working over Chris Saban. It was really nice to see both of them because Josh Alexander is more of a bruiser. He's the walking weapon, and Chris Saban's this high flyer. At one point, he just flew like halfway up the entrance for a suicide dive, which I thought was cool. And the finish came. This really outraged me. This is the worst thing I thought that was on the show. The finish came when Josh Alexander and Ethan Page start bickering because Josh Alexander is getting upset that he can't put away Chris Saban, and then he gets rolled up and loses. So now they're teasing dissension between the North. Now, I don't know about you guys. In the week since last week, when they're talking about this relationship between AEW and Impact, the one team from Impact, the one entity from Impact that I heard a lot about
want to see
was the North. Yeah, we want to see the North and FTR. We want to see the North and obviously the Good Brothers, but they're from like Japan/WWE. The one entity that's a product of Impact Wrestling was the North. They got the most buds. First thing you see on TV, segment 1, the North might break up. What?
Well, Ethan Page's contract is supposed to be up either this month or next month. So, I mean, they are going to, unless Page re-signs.
Yeah, they really
need to re-sign him because they're talented. But I got a news flash. I like Ethan Page a lot. And I know maybe he's working, maybe he's not. But I love the North. I do. Especially Josh Alexander. He's underrated as hell. But that said, they call themselves the best tag team. And I feel it from them that they're shooting when they say that. The best tag team of all time in Impact. Boys, you couldn't even lace Beer Money's boots.
Yeah, I think they might be saying that to get heat, but they are a very damn good tag team. And yeah, maybe they are the best team in
awesome. Oh, no, brother, they're awesome. You're correct. I love them.
Yeah. probably the best tag team in years, but yeah, nothing close to Beer
Yes.
Money as far as
Not
combining
yet, yes.
charisma and the whole package.
And
Beer
a real
Money was
team, yes.
yeah, probably one of the best tag team in TNA history. If
I think so.
And what I love about the North,
who
the
else.
same thing I kind of love about Beer Money is that both of them have singles potential. I saw Josh Alexander in there today, just like I see him anytime he wrestles a singles match. Like, this guy could be a star on his own.
The North.
And
Yes,
he might not even be the
he
star of his team.
Yeah.
He could, brother. You're right. He could.
Yeah. Chris Pantaleo saying they need to lower the sound from the ring mat. Yeah, you just hear the.
Hey.
Yeah.
I think I talked to Chris Pantaleo today. What up, Chris?
Yeah.
We also got Brian Myers versus TJP. Brian Myers won that match. TJP working over his knee, popped up, spinebuster clothesline. They had a backstage interaction between TJP and Rohit Raju. Basically, Rohit Raju is going to defend his title and defeat Rohit, kind of like an open challenge. And so that might be TJP can't compete for that title anymore, but they tease that it might be him. Maybe he'll be under a mask this Saturday.
Raju is actually my pet name, for my parents. They always call me Raju growing up.
Does it mean anything? What does it translate to?
Well,
With Indian families, they usually have like a nickname. It's like
nickname.
Yeah, but they call you that more, over your real name. So my full name's Rajiv, but they would call me Raju.
Yeah.
Raju. Oh, there you go. So you're going to show up for the
heel.
Is that what you're saying?
What's that?
Are you going to show up this Saturday for the defeat Rohit?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Not gonna. I don't see that happening.
Matt, what were you saying?
Wasn't Raju a huge, big time heel on Batman? I can't remember.
In the comic books or the movie?
The comic books and video.
Raj Al Ghul was the guy you're talking about.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. Yes.
He's the big heel. He's like the Lex Luthor of Batman. Then we got Eric Young versus Cody Deaner. It's another split that they're teasing between the Deaners because Cody wanted to do it by himself and couldn't. Kind of, had to tell his Jake to back off, and then while doing that, he got distracted and lost the match.
We said way too much about that match, dude.
No more. I tried to sum it up as much as possible. Hey, we got more tag team dissension in Deonna Purrazzo and Kimberly versus Rosemary and Taya. Not as much dissension, but it was a miscommunication. Rosemary won, so Deonna is going to be defending her title against Rosemary this Saturday. Sami Callihan appeared live. He had a confrontation with Alicia Edwards, and then Eddie Edwards came in to her honor and ran off Sami Callihan. And then we got a wrestling main event. Moose and Chris Bay took on Rich Swan and Willie Mack. Guess what the story of this match was? More tag team dissension as Chris Bay is mouthing off Moose is mouthing off to Chris Bay, uses him as a weapon. He's actually thrown onto Moose in a moonsault maneuver. Chris Bay actually ended up getting the pinfall over Willie Mack to set up Chris Bay versus Rich Swan this Saturday for the Impact Championship. I must say, Rich Swan did not come off as a world champion on this show, which, again, you kind of think champions versus champions, and it's like, if this is your world champion, which already he's kind of an underdog, smaller guy with a world title.
Are you excited by that?
Yeah. No. Even the business that they did where they had Rich Swan denied at the door, I really thought they could have done more to present him as this is our champion, even though we have the AEW champion come. Kenny Omega came off as the Impact World Champion on this show.
What did you think about the show overall? Champion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
What did you think about the show overall?
Not good. I liked the first match. I liked the opening match. I love Taya Valkyrie. I love Rosemary. Is Sue Young? I like her gimmick too, by the way. She wasn't on there, but I like her character too. Yeah. Didn't like the show. I was just excited to get to the Kenny stuff, honestly, guys.
And the Kenny stuff was really good. That paid off. I mean, it was really entertaining. But again, to your point, I don't see how this benefits Impact in 2 weeks. I'm sure they'll get a little bit of a bump for next week, and then they'll be back to where they were. It's like at Bound for Glory, where their big selling point is fired WWE guys are going to show up on our show. Guess who? You won't believe which ones. And you get a little spike for a couple of weeks. They get a little interest, and then it just dissipates. They need their own stuff. And the last time I felt like they had a little bit of buzz was when they had Tessa as their world champion. And since then, it's just been coming up with, needing outside groups to have a little bit of a buzz.
They did, and I know that's what they did with this, but like they did create a little buzz when a lot of WWE talents did get released, and like the Good Brothers were going to be coming, because that was a huge shocker to me. I couldn't believe they weren't going to AEW or New Japan. I was shocked by that. So like that gave me some intrigue to see what they were going to do. Gallows told me that they're going to, he's like, dude, you don't get it. I've got the best deal ever. We're going to be able to plug our Talking Shop-A-Mania. We're going to be able to plug our podcast. I'm like, how's that going to look? But they have been able to do just that. But like, so I wanted to see what a lot of that looked like. And Eric Young, I heard, was coming back. So for friend reasons, I wanted to check in. But that's not something that draws mainstream attention, like you're saying, Raj, to make people tune back in, I don't think. But I honestly, I thought this was a wasted opportunity for Impact, and I hate saying that. Yeah. It sucks. I was hoping that they could showcase some of their other talents in a much better situation to show you who the hierarchy there is. I'm sorry, Rich Swan was a champion. You said it best, Alfred. They did not. That's not his fault. They did not book him accordingly tonight. And that's not his fault. That's their fault. By jabroning him and punking him like that was so stupid.
You know what they made him look like? You remember that time when Chris Jericho first won the title and he was carrying Stephanie McMahon's bags? And
I hated it then. I wasn't smart to the business yet. I hated it though.
Yeah, it was terrible. When you make your world champion look second rate, and here they made him look not even in this. Josh Matthews came across as a bigger star than him.
He did. Yeah. Yes, he did.
Yeah, they made a point. That's part of that segment. Josh Matthews comes in and they say, "Are you on the list?" And he looks at the thing and says, "Yeah, you're on the list as an interview. Go ahead." And the world champion has to stand back there like it's a room.
Right?
Yeah, terrible. And just if you were, like you said, Alfred, to hit on your point, to piggyback on it a little bit, if you were to talk about like dream matches and champion versus champion, right? You got SmackDown with Roman Reigns. Who do we got on Raw right now? Drew McIntyre, right? You've got for AEW now Kenny Omega, right? And Impact is Rich Swan, and it's again not his fault. It's how they booked him. I don't know. I would have EC3 with that title instead. I'd have some bigger names, maybe Moose even.
Yeah, Moose came out like a world champion tonight in that match. He came out like the world champion in that match.
He is so I still feel he's underrated, by the way. I think he's severely underrated.
Yeah. Bigfoot Sneakerhead pointing out, no disrespect to Rich Swan, but Moose looks better as champ.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. And Joey or Dorjan, which is kind of what we had mentioned on Wrestling Inc., Gallows and Anderson are going to have their Lex Luger on Nitro moment tomorrow. I'm a big fan of Gallows and Anderson, but Luger was another level when he showed up. That was...
guys, like that's sacrilege what you just typed. That literally set our business on fire that night. Like that, everyone was calling everyone on the phone back in the day. We didn't have the cell phones. We were texting each other. Everyone's phones were blowing up. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, and what made that such a moment was the sheer shock of a WWE guy showing up on WCW. If Gallows and Anderson show up tomorrow, that's not going to be it would be a surprise in that it wasn't advertised.
I like it.
But we know they're working together. Yeah, I like it too. But it's not going to be like, holy crap. Like yeah, we'll like it, but it will not be a Luger.
Call your friends. That's my gauge. I'll never forget that. I picked up the phone, I was calling everybody, go quick. You got to turn the show on now. They didn't even know, half my friends didn't even know what the show I was talking about. Because they weren't smartened up to WCW yet. I lived up north. And, dude, but like, I'll never, so like, that's my new gauge. Would I be willing to pick up the phone and text somebody, say, you watching this right now? I will say this. I got a couple texts tonight about Kenny being on Impact from people. Logan Secula, who runs a very, very famous podcast, non-wrestling related. And a couple other people that aren't major wrestling fans, that aren't in the business, that are like complete outsiders, but are famous in other industries, I would say. That shot me a message tonight saying, hey, are you watching this stuff with Kenny Omega? I thought that was pretty cool. There's only 3 of them that did that, but we'll see what happens with the numbers. I'd be very interested to see.
Yeah, I mean, last week, so there's been twice in the last couple of months. Last week when Sting showed up in AEW, I heard some people like, oh, I heard Sting is back in wrestling again. And then,
yes, that did it. That did it.
That was big. And then, we'll see where it goes. Apparently he will be wrestling. We'll talk about that in a sec. And the other one was the Undertaker retiring, because that got all sorts of mainstream pub, and people are like, oh wow, Undertaker's just now retiring.
Yes.
It was kind of that. But wait, yeah, those were the two.
Tell me about Sting. I didn't know this. What were you going to say?
So Sports Illustrated has an article today. And apparently the deal is that Sting is actually going to be wrestling some matches. Now, whether it's tag team matches, he's obviously going to have to be heavily
Eight
protected. He's
mans.
almost 62.
8 mans. It better be 8 mans. And that's what we don't want. Like, right. Like, we're not being jerks saying this. Like we don't want to see. One of the things they always said about Dr. J, and I'm dating myself here, is that he played a little bit past his prime. And, like, people didn't like seeing him, you know, no longer dunking on everybody and having the vert he used to have and a lot of his skill set that made him the Doctor back when we were little. And so, like, that was, I always heard other athletes use that as their example of, we want to know when it's time to get out, right? But before I become a caricature of my own self, right? So, like, in Sting, if you got to put him in singles matches, that's unfortunately what's going to happen. I don't want to see that happen to him. I hope AEW does right by him. Please do right by him. Put him in an 8-man tag. I promise it will get over like gangbusters. Just let him make a hot tag, a couple friggin' clotheslines, make somebody eat his finish. That's all we want to see. Just like we want to see Hogan do what? We want to see him do a leg drop, get up 1, 2, 3, cup his ear to everybody and pose. That's all we want to see.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, he's almost 62. So he's got spinal stenosis. He can't be taking bumps, you know, at that age.
Yeah, and this is actually kind of worrisome to me that they're going to have him out there wrestling because, I mean, he went to the biggest company in the world that has the best doctors when it comes to wrestling, and they said that he should never step in the ring again. And AEW early in their run has already had some criticism in how their medical staff handles things. We saw that ugly issue with Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara a couple of times. And so they now, you know, have this blood on their hands where, God forbid, something happens to Sting and his career ends in an AEW ring.
Bro.
I mean, it's going to be forgiven.
Al, they'll never be forgiven.
Yeah.
What if you did something like, would it feel cheap if you did something like Sting versus Darby Allin in a cinematic match where it's taped at some motorcycle thing,
right,
and you had a stunt guy doing most of Sting's stuff?
I'm cool with that. I'd be perfectly cool with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I swear to God, because he's that Rob, dude. Darby has this. Like, I love that he's there for Darby. I really love that.
Yeah. I mean, we had the Firefly Funhouse. That was a WrestleMania match advertised, and there was one move in the whole thing.
I loved it.
Yeah, and people loved it.
And I'd be fine with it, especially with Darby Allin's character does all those cinematic things where he has those videos where he's jumping off crazy stuff. So if they did something like that with a Sting match, and Darby Allin's the one guy I want to see Sting work because it would be a guy, the Rub, who's really young, who could be a star for the next 20 years. And if they did that in a cinematic setting, I don't think people would have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sting and Jericho would draw the most eyeballs, but if you're getting Sting, you need to build a new star, and Darby would gain the most. Sting versus Jericho would be a one-time big thing and then forgotten, whereas Darby is building a new star.
Can I ask you a question, though? Mm-hmm. Would you actually want to see that match? Would you want to see the action of Sting versus Jericho? I would.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I just think Jericho, the both guys are smart enough to make it work with smoke and with mirrors. They were both
That's true.
And the announcement would get a big reaction. But the match itself, especially the nuts and bolts of that match, would not be very good. I don't think it would be fun to watch. It would have to be very short, too.
Again, even that, I think you'd have to do a cinematic match. Because I don't think you can do a one-on-one match with Sting now.
No, you cannot. Physically because of his yes. So really quick, one thing about Sting, and he's similar to Kurt Angle like this. When he's like backstage and he's like watching the monitor and stuff and watching the matches, he wants to work the younger talents. Mm-hmm. He knows he's Sting. He knows he's crazy over. He's not selfish like that. So like my only fear is like when Kurt went to TNA, if you remember, they didn't know how to slow him down and say, "Whoa, calm down, Android," like Cyborg, wrestling god. You know, because he's a cyborg. He's a freaking nature, never gets tired. You can't tell when he's hurt. He's amazing. But he's almost too good for his own good, right? Too nice and giving for his own good. Sting is the same way. So I'm hoping AEW will have the discipline to do it right. Give Darby the rub, build it to get to whatever cinematic match they have one day. Awesome. Do not let Sting, because he's going to be like, wow, I like this guy. I want to work with him. I don't want to work with him. I want to put this kid over. I can totally see him doing that. I just hope AEW gets smart enough to pump the brakes a little. That's all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A couple more super chats. Man Antonio saying, Omega is about to be Impact, AAA, AEW, and maybe NWA.
Nick Aldis ain't having that shit. No way, bro.
I'll collect their gimmick.
Nick Aldis ain't no way. Nick, if you're watching, don't you dare. No.
Yeah. Corey Pride with the $5 super chat saying, Lord Alfred, love Alfred. He adds a lot to the show. I haven't watched Impact since Spike TV. Do you think he'll ever be back on traditional mainstream cable?
I hope so one day, right? I think
In
we all
terms
hope
of
that.
Yeah, it'd be a long road back. But yeah, I do too. That's what you always hope for wrestling, that it just keeps growing. I always get glad that, Impact maybe should have died. I know they used to be TNA and they
Yes, I agree with you.
They should have been altogether dead years ago,
Yes.
but by the grace of God, they're still here. So hopefully this is going to be enough momentum to get them back out again.
I wanted them to literally bury the company completely. It's gone, no more, for like a year, 2, 3 years. And then you want to bring it back if you bought it, go ahead and do so. Resurrected is a different name. I don't know, something. But they've hurt our brand name, and I hate it.
And the problem is, every time they do get a new TV deal, it's worse and worse. Like, it has less exposure and less exposure ever since Spike.
Yeah.
And also on the Sting front, like, I don't want there to be, because WWE is guilty of this too, when wrestlers, they can't wrestle again medically, but then they come back later. I love the idea that there's all these places to go if you get fired from WWE, but I don't like the idea that there's all these places to go if you're medically not cleared. Like the idea that WWE tells somebody they can never wrestle again, they say, well, fine, I'm just going to go to AEW so I can wrestle again. Like, I don't want that to be a thing in wrestling moving forward, because that's kind of what's happening with Sting.
Right.
Huh. Yeah. And that's a little bit to do with their non-compete clauses and crap like that these companies all put in. It's, again, I hate to, this is a can of worm conversation, but I'll throw it out there again, a desperate need for a union. Again, I'll throw it out there because that's bullshit. When you lose your job, if I'm a house painter, I'm painting somebody's house, and the guy says, well, that's it, you suck at your job, Matt, you're fired. I get to go paint his neighbor's house if I choose to, that next day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're an independent contractor.
Yeah. Johnny Heck saying it's a shame we never got the Sting and Taker match.
It's a shame you didn't give us an update on your cat there, Johnny Hex. What's going on with you, bro? You never give us another update.
Yeah. Jackson Collins said, I apologize if I missed it, but was the purpose of all this, besides Omega saying he has an announcement on Dynamite? So confused. So another thing in that Sports Illustrated article was that Tony Khan wants to get over 1 million viewers. And they were at 913,000 last week. Maybe he feels there's enough with Impact and that with the Sting interview and Shaq, they're also announcing for next week that can put them over 1 million.
They need to talk more about Shaq, by the way, because I still have not seen anything about that.
Yeah, they just tweeted that, but I think maybe they just finalized that this week.
Okay.
But I thought so. In a couple weeks, they're going to be on that Christmas, that December 23rd. The NBA is going to be back, so the NBA is going to be airing in AEW's normal time slot. But I thought that would be a great night for AEW to air after and open with Shaq. That's the night you have Shaq.
I 100% agree with you on that. I'm that guy that watches NBA. I watch whatever. I fall asleep, generally speaking, to whatever's on TNT that's after. Good Will Hunting, some movie or some weird show, that I'm halfway paying attention to, but it's usually pretty good. I would definitely put that show on right after that.
Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of crossover between sports fans and wrestling fans. Like, even the sports fans think wrestling is stupid. It really doesn't take that much. If you're watching sports and wrestling comes on, I've seen it happen before my very eyes several times where they've just been watching sports and they see wrestling and it's just like, okay, let me give this a chance. Like, you're more likely to give wrestling a chance if you've just been watching sports.
Especially nostalgia, especially if they opened with Sting, for example. But Shaq is even better because those fans all know him. That's the demographic.
Exactly. Yeah, you peel some of those away, and then you have Sting on after that, and then a lot of those people are like, oh, I remember Sting. Definitely. And then you put in your new stars, mix them in, and you got, that's how you peel away new fans. I mean, you get new fans. So, I think there's an opportunity there.
Don't you think tonight's show they should have done more with different talents that look different than what fans generally would see on AEW? Like Sami Callihan, I know this might sound weird. I would have done a lot more with him. He intrigues me as a talent.
Mm-hmm.
He's very original.
I was so disappointed with his segment tonight. I thought they absolutely wasted an opportunity with Sami Callihan because you're absolutely right, Matt. Like, he is the guy where you're not going to see him on WWE. You're not going to see somebody who talks like him, who looks like him in that position. And what they did was they called back to a segment 2 years ago, which is, one of the last times they got real buzz was that baseball bat segment. But they got buzz, I think, for the wrong reasons because somebody legit got hurt. Yes. And they called back to that, but there's so much better that they could have done between Sami Callihan and even Eddie Edwards.
Yeah.
And you talk about Matt, what you were talking about earlier is maybe they should have reshot it, try to book a building. Even if they couldn't do that, they should at least flown those guys out and shot something outside, redone that promo, not in an empty ring, but done it outside in a parking lot and just change it, because the presentation I thought looked pretty weak for Sammy. And I agree with you. I think that was the best thing of not necessarily Impact homegrown talent, but talent that most WWE guys wouldn't recognize.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
There just needed to be more of a sense of urgency throughout the show. Like, they needed to promote the show like it was a pay-per-view, actually, really, because they're getting a pay-per-view level audience.
Yeah, no, they should have redone the comment. I think they probably did redo the commentary, but it should have. I know you have your limitations and having to go with what's taped, but it was, again, I've said this a few times, missed opportunity.
I would have trashed the whole fucking show and had them all come in and do it. I would have paid for it. It would have been worth it. You're welcome, Raj. I totally baited him.
Yeah,
Johnny
the cat's
X.
getting better, eating and getting better each day and getting back to normal.
I'm joking, Johnny X. That's good news. I was dead serious about your cat, and I know Glenn is as well. So, happy to hear about your cat, brother. He's a long-time listener, watcher. What do I call people that watch the show?
Watcher. Yeah, he's watching us live. So yeah, that was our first ever post Impact Wrestling podcast.
So next question, folks, is will this be our last? I will predict, if there's no AEW major talent coming onto Impact,
Yeah, I mean, so Impact. So tonight they did, I think it was like 51,000 viewers on Twitch. Do you know what they usually do?
Well, last week I know they did 166,000 just overall in terms of viewership on Access. Yeah.
You're kidding me, correct? You got to be shitting me. I've had that on my Instagram Live. I'm dead serious. I've had more than that on my Instagram Live feed.
Yeah, so tonight is 51,000, but what they usually do is about 2,000 to 4,000.
Oh, on Twitch. Okay.
On Twitch.
Wow.
Live.
Wow. So 2,000 to 4,000, and then they went up to 56,000. That's pretty good. I mean, that's great. What do you guys think? What's your prediction for their overall viewership? So last week they did 166,000 for a regular show. What's your prediction for the? Matt, I'll start with you.
I don't know what the ratings have been. And when you say 166,000, do you mean their TV rating itself?
For TV rating, overall viewership, I believe was 166.
Okay, I will say 100 and no, because this will spike it high for them. Actually, I'm gonna go up to 250,000.
That's exactly what I was thinking. 250 under 3, like between 250 and 3.
I was gonna say 3 flat. I was gonna say I'm just gonna go high and say 300,000. Let's just see what it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of the new viewers are probably checking them out on Twitch, but just because when we see SmackDown moving to FS1, a lot of people didn't even bother to find it when it did. So I think Twitch is easier to find as opposed to finding Access TV, and a lot of people don't get it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
What is stupid question? I don't even have Twitch. Do you guys?
It's
like YouTube. So you just go to twitch.com and search Impact. So it's like a YouTube channel.
It's big for gamers. Too. Yeah, a lot of gamers play games on Twitch, and
I've seen Miro's. I've seen a couple of theirs on you, like go pop up on my YouTube feed. Believe it or not.
Yeah. People are asking about Dark. Have you had real quick? Terrence Whitted saying, who would you guys want to see from WWE jump to AEW to really give you that shock moment? Okay, so if you were to recreate that Lex Luger type of appearance today, who would be? Cena's too big. That's more like a Hogan.
I was going through this over my head when Matt brought up the Lex Luger moment. I was going over who would be the Lex Luger moment of today. I would want to see somebody who everybody knows is good, but just isn't getting a fair shake in WWE. And the number one that comes to my mind is Keith Lee. If we saw Keith Lee, who was just obviously a big star, but like you see him just kind of get. I mean, it's just so frustrating to watch him in WWE.
It is so frustrating.
He's like such a waste of talent. Somebody like him or Ricochet or somebody who everybody knows is good. That if they go somewhere else, will be better.
So, I think that. But Luger was a huge star before.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, so that wouldn't be a Luger. That's just me personal.
Yeah.
Let me piggyback on that, Alfred. Keith Lee, after 5 years of them doing this to him,
right?
Yes. Then I'd equivalent. I'd make that equivalent to like Luger. Because to be fair, when Lex did show up on Nitro, I wasn't like, oh my God, I love Lex Luger. I can't believe he's here. It was, what the bleep is he doing here? He's with WWE. How is he here? This makes no sense. What's going on? I told you this shit was real. Like all my friends. Complete mark. I bet huge. Same when NWO came. I fought people about how real wrestling was. I've said, like, the New York Daily News covered it. It was on the back page of their newspaper. I'll never forget it. So that was made it feel real back then with that stuff. But anyways, who would I pick though? I honestly, not just like cherry picking, but it'd have to be an AJ. Someone like an AJ Styles, a Daniel Bryan even.
Well, there you go.
Mauricio Laus even saying AJ, and I think that's a great pick because he is established. He's never been the guy, but he's been always in that, easily put in and out of the main event spot, and he would have that shock value. That would be huge. So yeah, I agree. That's good. That's a good one.
I think the most shocking. I think if it was super shocking, and maybe this is more of a Lex Luger comparison, is like the Miz. Like, I'm not saying the Miz is like Lex Luger, but the Miz is a WWE guy. And he's somebody who's just a company branded guy. And anytime you interview The Miz, he's always going to give the company line. And he's the last person I would literally expect to show up on anybody else's TV. So in terms of shock value and being compared to Lex Luger, because Lex Luger's a guy WWE got behind. Remember the Lex Express? He was the WWE guy. But I know he was in WWE previously. But WWE
I know what you mean.
Firmly behind Lex Luger at the time that he showed up on WCW TV. So if you're talking about shock, AJ would absolutely be a shock value thing, but his buddies are there too, and he's kind of more of the mindset of an AEW wrestler. So the Miz would be the most WWE guy to go over there in terms of being a shock value.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't make me happy. I'm not saying it would be great.
No, here's the other thing. Go ahead, Raj, sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, because Luger, he was also thrust in the main event. He was someone that would be believable in the main event. I can't see Miz in an AEW main event. Point of career, no. Yeah, so that's where a Daniel Bryan or AJ or Seth Rollins, some people have been saying.
Seth Rollins would be a good one. Yep. Yeah. Obviously, Roman Reigns, but we know he ain't going nowhere.
And Reigns is almost too big. Yeah, exactly.
He's way too big. And to be fair, guys, you can't recreate that. That's why it's called magic. You can't recreate it. And that's been the problem in wrestling for so many years. Even when I was wrestling, it was always like, oh, that's your Stone Cold moment. Like, people would say like things like that backstage, right? And I'm like, shouldn't we be making our own moments, like in our own history and our own first time thing? We should be thinking outside the box the way they did. And you don't have to copy and duplicate everything that's happened in history of wrestling. It's going to take something else. It's going to be something different. I don't know what it is.
Right.
Maybe, I mean, who's to say what? I know it wasn't on a bigger show here on Impact. I get that. But I don't know. Who's to say this Kenny thing isn't a match that starts, that lights up something that possibly could be bigger with some of these companies all working somehow together. I know that hurts AEW, in my opinion. I don't know what the future can hold. NWA, though, I think is incredibly underrated, and I hate to see them sitting on the sidelines during all this.
Yeah, because
to a degree.
Yeah, because we mentioned this the other night, like Eli Drake and Nick Aldis, both are just they have it. Yeah,
it. Yes, they do, bro.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that about.
And female division. What's her name? The one who's married to Bram. She just got married to him or engaged.
Aldis is.
Aldis is Camille.
Aldis is old. Camille.
Yeah,
she's phenomenal. Like, she's another star in my opinion too. Could be a huge star. WWE needs to gobble her up quick.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree. Hopefully, today was the day that the vaccine started going out in the UK, and FDA is kind of giving it approval. So hopefully we can start having crowds back, because I don't think we're going to get another superstar until we have crowds back.
That's a good point.
Well, we got for the fourth day in a row tomorrow night with the Wrestling Podcast after AEW Dynamite and NXT. Alfred, thank you as always. You will be joining us again tomorrow night, and
absolutely,
you will be joining us every Wednesday night.
Yeah,
yay!
Thank you for putting me up, everybody. You guys' words helped, but it's always good to talk to you, Matt and Raj. Thank you so much. This is a lot of fun. So I'll be seeing you guys. You guys are going to get sick of me eventually, but we're having a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And I mean, not absolutely. We're gonna get sick of you, but absolutely, we enjoy having you. It's fun. Alfred, do you have anything you want to plug?
Just my Twitter @thisisnasty. Go on Forbes, look at any of my articles. It's got an Impact review live for those of you who want to see it in depth. And then subscribing to my YouTube channel, Pro Wrestling Bits.
All right. And Matt, do you have anything you want to plug tonight?
Yeah, guys, I plugged it last night, but just real quick, those of you looking to get in better shape, hit me up on Instagram direct message, or some of you I still need to get back to. Same with Facebook direct message as well, and get you in the best shape of your life. It's not some BS plug. Talk to me about it, and I'll tell you how it's absolutely put 38 pounds of muscle back on me at age 44. Oh, yeah. So, seriously, give me a holler, and I'll help you guys all out.
And everyone, to keep checking out WrestlingInc.com, tons of exclusive interviews. I actually just had a really pretty in-depth interview with Low Key today, who does not hold back.
Oh, good.
So he's
Low Key's always an interesting. No, that's why he's always a great interview. Low Key's, I love Low Key.
Yeah, it was awesome. So
I should have had his voice, by the way.
Yeah,
I should have had his voice.
Nah, he's got.
I would have been way
all-time
more.
voice.
I would have been
so
way.
Cool.
I would have been way more over.
And I think it's fair to say it now. I'll go ahead and say it. We got an exclusive interview with Johnny Gargano that's going to be on the site tomorrow.
Wow.
So, yeah, check it out. Yeah. So check it out, WrestlingInc.com. Thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in. Our numbers for being an off night were still great, so we really appreciate it and are glad that you guys joined us.
Thank you
and we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys.